Привет из Дубая. С вами передача «ГолубьМира», где разбираем крутые навыки. Спрашиваем на английском, отвечаем на русском. Подтягивайте язык или смотрите перевод в тайм-кодах. Let's talk about marriage contract and let's start with the definition.
Before our filming, I asked Maxim how it would be in correct English, and Maxim told me it something like very difficult to pronounce, and we decided to call it like marriage contract. But to be correct, this would be like
Prenuptial agreement.
prenuptial agreement. It's even difficult to say. But anyway, if you are from a wealthy family and you have some, I don't know, real estate, maybe vineyard and something like this, you would think, okay, this girl or this boy, is he or she loves me, or it is attempt to get half of my ownership of something. And rich families usually sign so-called marriage contract. The main reason is to show everyone the limit of assets that would be gained in some conditions. For example, if girl would give birth to the son, she will get, I don't know, 100,000 US dollars. If it would be daughter, it would be like 90 thousands US dollars. If, for example, we will live together like for 10 years, you will get, I don't know, one mil. So in this case, you will never expect to have everything on your account. You will have just what are described in the marriage contract.
Well, I do believe that the marriage contract might be like a single case of the contracts for some sort of like a partnerships. So what kind of building blocks or maybe parts or maybe fundamentals we need to consider before stepping into the process of signing?
First, you should understand that if you will fall in love and you'll say, come on, I'm so romantic person and I don't want to start conversation like this about how we'll divide villa or swimming pool or some, I don't know, washing machine. It would be not worth to our love. It is a serious mistake. If you will have second or third marriage, unfortunately, you will understand that sometimes people break through, they get divorced, and it is like a project. So when you step in the family, sometimes you feel maybe good sex or maybe good time to spend with somebody, but after several years you will understand that the cup is already empty, nothing in it, and you should go. But in many cases you have already child or children, and you are obliged to pay for them and to take part in their life. So it is worth to have a marriage contract.
Well, before we look into different levels, maybe one of the first questions is actually how to even start to have this conversation with your partner or someone else who is about to go for marriage, and like what kind of considerations you need to have and what kind of arguments you need to have towards another person to actually convince them.
Unfortunately, I have already certain marriage, and I am not lucky with this. So I'm happy to have wife of my dream. But anyway, I think that it would be much better to have just a single couple per wife. But I remember one statement that was pronounced by one Russian oligarch. It was Boris Berezovsky, and he told something like, "Business which are based on the trustship usually ends with the blood." Получается, so if you will, if you are a shy person and you will not start this conversation, for example, before your marriage proposal, maybe you'll have the tough one after 2 or 3 years, and it would be almost endless story. Because before this, before stepping in marriage, you have some rights, and other person also could leave conversation, and you will have no choice but to break these relations. But if you are already in, you should understand all the consequences, and some of them should be hard. You know, there is a Russian singer. His name was Shnur. Maxim, can you help me, please? In St. Petersburg.
It's actually could be translated as a court, but usually the names not really translate. So
Okay, it is Snur, or Sergei Shnurov, and he told such a statement: if you will make unprotected sex, you will have a child, not a TV. So what should you expect if you are going to such risk? The same with marriage. What you should expect if you will live with someone for several years? For sure, you will have common children, you have common household and something else. And when you are going to step out of this cycle, anyway, you should divide it for some parts.
And when it comes to like a different types or like a even by complexity of the contracts, what it might be starting like from simple piece of paper and ending up with like a some sort of document with maybe like a multiple appendixes included.
The simple documents, they easy to understand. You know, when I was working in Germany, I was asked to sign an NDA agreement, and it was in Times New Roman, 10 points size, and it was 18 pages on both sides. It was not possible to read. I don't know how to say, abzats, paragraph. Paragraphs, they were sometimes for 2 or 3 pages, so I couldn't understand. This is not just about my poor English, it's also about an ability to understand so many words to put in one sentence. Yes, it is the way how lawyers think, but it is very hard. Sometimes people made just one contract and one appendix. Contract is about common rules. For example, what about can you please help me? Измена.
Affair.
About affair, about giving the birth, about some heart illness, and some other stuff. But all the sums usually would be put in appendix, in table, where it would be like several columns. For example, what should happen and how it would be treated.
And actually, I think it's a very interesting point on how to balance this contract. So, for example, let's take the case of the affair when someone is cheating on someone. So, how do we kind of like make a decision of how we will balance, like what should be the penalty? Or, for example, like when we split, like how exactly we should be dividing this? Should it be dictated by our own will? Or we might be considering some sort of like a justice or adding sort of like a coefficient so that it's actually fair for another person.
There are several ways how to manage this. One is to make it 50-50. For example, it doesn't matter which family are richer, or your spouse, but you should take into account all money what would be involved in your common life. Usually people divide obligations. For example, one will pay for house, one will pay for children, one will pay for food, one will pay for trip, and so on. And it should be like equivalent, like 50-50 or 60 to 40. And it doesn't matter how many money do you have, it is matter how many do you spend. But some points could be without obligation. For example, presents or something which is wanted by one person and another is invited to join.
And when it comes to the mistakes which people make during the, like making this contract, or maybe even I would say presenting the idea or the project of the contract, what there might be.
On the skill in the school of troubleshooting, it is called theory of games, or game theory. How to make it correct?
Games theory.
Games theory. We were saying that it is we should discover or consider 3 types of people. First, people, they are like dark horses. They are unable to understand. Second, this is bounty hunters, which are going to have marriage just to cut someone's ownership. And third, it is people who truly love. And if you will think to sign marriage contract, you should think twice. Maybe you will have this paper signed, but maybe the person would be wrong, or maybe right person wouldn't sign the contract. In this case, you should be how to say щедрый? Generous. You should be generous. So you should give almost everything what you have. You know, there is a joke in Russian language, it's called anecdote, that if you will be asked to jump from the plane with paratrooper and with probability to die like 80%. Would you agree? And everyone is saying, no, I wouldn't agree. But marriage is, for men, it's almost the same. With 80% probability, first marriage of man would be broken, and he will get payment for child or for children, and also he will lose faith for himself for some period of time, for 1 or 2 for 2 years, and it is very hard impact on the life. But better to make it on the plane than suddenly to discover that your paratrooper is out of competence or out of service.
Well, I do believe at the first marriage, it's like undoubtedly love when you just like really blindly go into the specific, like feelings that you have, and more you go there, you actually it's actually emerge with the different skills like a risk assessments, like you enable certain levels of paranoia, and you actually try to play it safe, but yet try to be nice and friendly. My last question will be how knowing about marriage contract would help to make this world a better place.
A lot of people never think about consequences, and this is a very important word in our conversation. If you are going to create a couple, you should understand that this is obligations which you accept. You could think about this, you could consider, you could take into account, but anyway, something will happen. For example, if someone would be deadly ill, or if you will be in car accident, or maybe your insurance will not enough to cover, for example, broken house, what will you do? And some people, they create couple to fight against the problem, but some people create couple to fight against each other. I see your smile, and I know why you're smiling, because several days ago I just issued an article with principle of love, and one of them was don't fight each with other, but together fight with the problem.
Любите, но также оценивайте риски. А мы рассмотрели навык «Брачный договор» и чем он полезен именно вам. Всем мира!